Welcome to Tweet of the Week. I am joined today by our Director of Capital Projects, Mr. Adnan Mamoon, and you have a big job because when we say capital projects, that's pretty much everything that has to do with the construction, the renovation of our facilities. And a big thing happened recently at a board meeting, and that was the approval of our Educational Facilities Master Plan, which is a document that is how many pages long?
The actual document is about 85 pages, but that does not include all the other charts and reports and the enrollment projections that are included in that report. So altogether, it's probably closer to 200 pages.
And so this document, which is available for folks online.
That is correct.
Does what?
So the EFMP is, or the Educational Facilities Master Plan, is a blueprint for our facilities. It looks at both the existing facilities from a conditions perspective. It also looks at a long-term enrollment projection to understand what our facilities needs are going to be in the future. So it will look at enrollment projections. It works with our planning department will work with the county and other local jurisdictions to understand like future residential development needs and include that into the enrollment projections and project it out for 10 years. Based on that, it will create a roadmap for what the future needs for added capacity is going to be in different areas of the county. That's one part of the report. The other part looks at the conditions of the aging schools and what we can do to plan to make sure that we're continually providing excellent facilities for our students and our teachers. So that looks at what's known as a facility conditions index, which basically looks at the aging infrastructure of the building and then plans out how we can modernize or replace facilities that are in need of improvement.
And so as Mrs. Schaefer, our Vice President of the Board of Education, said, it is a document that is chock full of information, and you just did a great job of delineating the two major needs that we have to constantly try to balance as a school system, and that is, how are we taking care of our aging facilities and keeping them up to date? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, we know Frederick County is growing rapidly, and how do we make sure that we have enough seats, enough capacity to house all of the students in our jurisdiction? Sure. And so the other thing I think that a lot of people don't realize, and our board tried to emphasize this a lot in their conversation about the Educational Facilities Master Plan, even though you said we're trying to project way out into the future, we revisit this document every single year.
That is correct.
And so part of what will impact it are needs may change, mm-hmm. but another part that could impact it is how much money do you get to do the projects that are in this plan. And so one of the things that I know our board wanted to emphasize and our county government wanted to emphasize is it is just that. It's a plan. It's not a guarantee. And as we look at funding, there may be 3 projects we would love to do, but if we can only afford 2, one project's going to move a little further out in the timeline. And so sometimes people see it and they're like, oh good, we're going to get a school on X year, and then folks at Frederick High can tell you that they waited 14 years before they finally got into that cycle because of the growth spurt we went through and the need to fill seats. So we don't envy you trying to balance and prioritize that. And so sometimes people do ask me that question, well, how do you prioritize? How do you, Adnan?
So capacity is obviously a major concern, as being a growing county. We look at the board's policies of ensuring that we have 90% state-rated capacity at all of our buildings. So that's becomes a priority to ensure that we're balancing the required number of seats that we have at each school. And also at the same time, the other priority that comes into play is the aging infrastructure, because you do have to keep in mind that sometimes an aging school can create problems for the maintenance and operations of the instruction, to make sure that we are providing an optimal instructional space. So it does become a challenge. Capacity usually drives the conversation a lot. So usually, we will see that the need for new seats typically tends to rise up into the plan as we discuss about new residential growths that we're seeing in the county. And at the same time, for example, we do have in the current plan, we're doing replacement schools based on aging needs. Rock Creek is an example. There's an upcoming project that's under design. Waverly is an example that we prioritize to make sure we're doing a replacement because those buildings were old. And the Waverly School at the same time will add capacity to that area. So it's a balancing act. Sometimes, the FCI drives the conversation because if we think there's a more chance of a facility not being able to last the intended number of years. At the same time, we have to make sure that we're providing adequate seats at all our facilities.
And our funding comes from our local government, but also from the state. And so we also have the challenge then of how is the state going to look at balancing that? Because we know with capacity, they're going to ask us, what about the adjacent schools?
That's correct.
So sometimes that need for redistricting to look at capacity in that regard. But they will also look at how much money you have put into any kind of systemic project. So in an aging facility, if the HVAC fails, and we have to go in and replace that, that could actually push that renovation project later.
That's correct.
Because we made a substantial investment. So as I said, it is not an easy job, but it is something that you guys pull a lot of data, hence the report went from 85 pages to a couple hundred, and it is always evolving. And so again, please look for this document on our website and check it out. You will find out a lot of information about your schools and schools around the county. And know that you'll be coming back in early September to talk about the capital improvement plan, and when we really ask for the budget, and then the cycle never ends because then you begin that look at the EFMP for the next year. So thank you for all you do. And please continue to follow FCPS on Twitter so you can learn about these fantastic things that our board approves. And if you really want to see action happening in our schools in the summer, you will see our maintenance and facility teams out there doing a lot of work. So stay tuned, stay in touch, know that there really isn't a summer break for FCPS. And we hope to see you again next time on Tweet of the Week.